What's up, Guardians? Haterade here, and today we're talking Solar 3.0 and the new drastically improved Gunslinger. With the launch of Season 17, also known as Season of the Haunted, all Solar subclasses have been completely redone to fall in line with the current subclass setup with aspects and fragments. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't even remember the last time I ran anything but a Night Stalker when using a Hunter in PvE, but things are about to completely change with the build we're going to go over today. You will without a doubt be the best ad-clearing hunter in the game with survivability and the ability to, well, spam your abilities. Watch as everything around you erupts in flames and explodes as the Gunslinger makes its way into this season. To start, the Gunslinger is the Hunter's Solar subclass, bringing its 3 super abilities forward from previous seasons. We'll look past both Golden Gun variants with this build and instead focus on the new and improved Blade Barrage super. With Blade Barrage, you'll be able to use your super for both ad clearing and single point DPS. Not to mention, it recently received a 25% damage buff to PvE combatants. For the purposes of this build, you're going to want to set up your abilities as follows. For your dodge, you're going to want to use the new Acrobat's dodge. It's important to note that this dodge has the longest cooldown of them all, but we'll talk more about reducing that later. When you dodge, you'll leap forward and provide you and your nearby fire team with 10 seconds of the Radiant buff, giving you and anything with the buff a 25% weapon damage increase while Radiant is active. For the Gunslinger 3.0's Wombo combo, you're going to want to use the Proximity Explosive Knife, aka the Mini Trip Mine Grenade, in conjunction with the actual Proximity Mine. Throwing these together will create 2 separate explosions, playing into the explosive focus of this build. You could technically use any of the throwing knives that add Scorch and pair that with the moderate Scorch applied from the Trip Mine explosion to further increase the stacks of Scorch from one Wombo combo, but I found that the fire and forget ability of both the Proximity Explosive Knife and the Trip Mine Grenade work wonders together. The 2 aspects we'll be focusing on today are Knock 'em Down and Gunpowder Gamble. Both of these play into the playstyle loop of ability spam to inflict maximum damage. With Knock 'em Down, your Blade Barrage launches more projectiles, effectively covering a larger area and dealing more damage. When Radiant, charged melee defeats will refund your throwing knife, allowing you to non-stop yeet your stabby stab at nearby enemies. The second aspect is the brand new ability Gunpowder Gamble. I'm going to need you to sit down for this one because this is where the build really starts to take form. With Gunpowder Gamble, you'll be able to use an additional fragment slot, and with that, this aspect charges up for every ability, solar debuff, and even solar weapon defeats. When fully charged, you'll notice an icon appear over your grenade. Essentially, this gives you a bundle of dynamite that you can throw at your enemies and shoot to detonate, proccing an ignition explosion. Remember that, because we're going to touch base on that later. You can also just stick it to enemies or the wall or the ground, and after a few seconds, it'll detonate on its own. But let's be honest, it's more fun to yell Kobe as you throw that thing into a group of enemies and watch them explode in flames. With these 2 aspects, you'll have a total of 3 fragment slots, and this is where the build synergy starts to form. First up, we've got Ember of Solace. This fragment increases the duration of both the Radiant buff and restoration effects that are applied to you. From a number standpoint, it's going to look something like this. At base value, with the Radiant buff lasting 10 seconds and restoration lasting 7 seconds. With Ember of Solace, those numbers jump up from 10 seconds to 15 seconds for the Radiant buff and from 7 seconds to 11 seconds for restoration. The last 2 fragments are both going to play directly into the aspect Gunpowder Gamble and our exotic of choice for this setup. With Ember of Eruption, your solar ignitions, you remember that bundle of dynamite from Gunpowder Gamble, right? Will have an increased area of effect. To make this even better, thanks to Ember of Blistering, defeating targets with solar ignitions will grant you grenade energy for your Trip Mine Grenade. Now, we've talked about the Trip Mine Grenade and explosions and ability spam a bunch. You probably already know what exotic armor we're pairing this with. It's time to dust off young Ahamkar's spine. With its intrinsic perk, Wish Dragon Teeth, the young Ahamkar's spine increases Trip Mine Grenade duration and blast radius, allowing it to affect a larger area with its moderate scorch and damage when detonating. Additionally, ability damage grants Trip Mine Grenade energy. So let's recap. You throw a Trip Mine and Explosive Knife combo. They both explode. Because they both did damage to a target, they give you grenade energy, but wait, you've also gotten solar ability kills and solar weapon kills in the meantime. Now you have Gunpowder Gamble ready. You Kobe that thing and ignite more targets, giving you grenade energy back thanks to Ember of Blistering. Thus, the play loop for this build is formed. But what if we can make this even more lethal? I'm glad you asked. Now, let's look at the mods that are going to push this build from great to insane when it comes to ad clear and survivability. Explosive Wellmaker is going to be your best friend for many reasons. With all the explosions going off as you yeet Trip Mine Grenades and Gunpowder Gamble dynamite bundles all over the place, you can spawn Elemental Wells, giving you even further reduced cooldown times for your abilities. Now, I personally like to pair it with Well of Life to give an additional 10 seconds of constant healing whenever you pick up a Solar Well. You could always swap it out for something like Font of Might if you're wanting to deal more damage, or Bountiful Wells if you just love Elemental Wells and want even more of them to drop. That's pretty much it for Elemental Well mods for this build. The next batch of mods are the cherry on top. Whew, okay, here we go. Warmind Cells. These explosive little balls of fiery hate are ready to support your ad clearing needs. Starting off with global reach to get that crispy 10-meter damage area of effect when detonating these bad boys. Next is the holy grail of Warmind Cell combos when it comes to solar and explosions. Rage of the Warmind and Wrath of Rasputin. With Wrath of Rasputin, any solar splash damage will have an escalating chance to create Warmind Cells. You're running a solar build that spams solar splash damage everywhere, right? That's what I thought. Warmind Cells will be raining down left and right, and when you destroy them, they'll create more Warmind Cells, thanks to Rage of the Warmind, which adds additional solar damage to the Warmind Cells you destroy. There is one outlier mod that I want to add to this build, and it may take some longer than others to unlock with playtime in Season 17. And that's the seasonal class item mod, Class E Restoration. What this mod does is by activating your solar class ability, aka your Acrobat's Dodge, which gives you a weapon damage buff, by the way, grants you restoration and your health bar will be fully restored. It's not instant like Devour and it takes a second or two to fill, but this is the final piece of the build. Since this build is all about solar weapons and splash damage, we've got a ton of options of weapons to choose from. In the kinetic slot, you're looking at anything with Firefly. I'm looking at you, Fatebringer. In the energy slot, some personal favorites that do tremendously well are things like Sunshot, which explodes targets upon defeat, Teraba, the Waveframe, Grenade Launcher, Explosive Personality, even some old exotic weapons like Skyburner's Oath and Polaris Lance, which can both stun unstoppable champions in Season 17. For heavy weapons, you've got weapons like Galahorn, Sleeper Simulant, Heir Apparent, even Lament, and the recently buffed Xenophage can create Warmind Cells with ease. The world is truly your oyster as far as solar weapon options go. Choose what fits your favorite style of gunplay and make the world burn. At the end of the day, it still feels strange to be doing so well with ad clear and survivability on anything other than a Sentinel or Sunbreaker Titan, Devourer Lock, or Night Stalker Hunter, but this Gunslinger setup is just too damn good not to use. I'm excited to see how it fares in Legend and Master content and may even take this into Grandmaster Nightfalls later in the season to have some fun. What build have you been enjoying so far in Season 17? That's it for me. I'm done. I'm out. I'll see y'all in the next one.